All right. Welcome. Hey.
Okay, good stuff. Let's get going.
First and foremost, very much welcome. We are very excited to have you all here. So welcome everyone. I was saying that we are very excited to have you all join. It's a bit weird in these like digital circumstances or a bit unusual, but we are very excited of the other opportunities it gives for more people maybe to join. Like maybe very short as an introduction, who we are or who is behind this event. It's a collaboration between Sonian Wood Coop, Osmos, the Centre Ecology Urbain, with support of the Connecting Nature European project and with support of the Véolia Foundation. And we basically launched this very first summit in Europe because as we were working on setting up the Sonian Wood Coop, we found how important it was to tap into the already existing network of pioneers, what considers urban wood and local forest management. And we really feel the richness that is going on, and we are really excited to see how we can further connect this. Also to briefly introduce the Connecting Nature framework, Martin soon will show a video. It's linked to a European project that wants to facilitate and support nature-based solutions. And for that now recently has launched a platform to support connecting nature enterprises. And so we use the sustainable forestry page of this platform as a lever to kind of already make visible the pioneering projects that we are including in this local wood network. So we kindly invite you all to also join us and to register on the platform so we can like show the amount of pioneering and inspiring initiatives that are out there and to make them visible.
Mm-hmm. Before we show you the video on more details about this, just like also a few words of welcome from my side. So my name is Stefan. I'm with Hanne here in Brussels today, and so we are working on local wood here in Brussels. But it's really quite a long time now already that we were very eager to try to bring the initiatives around local wood kind of towards a common platform to start to meet, to discuss, to motivate each other, to inspire each other. So that's something that was on our to-do list for quite a long time already. And due to the Corona pandemic, obviously we weren't really able to do it in the format that we wanted to do it earlier this year. But instead of delaying kind of this moment further, we decided, just to do it online in this format. Because we saw through Instagram, through Facebook, through our personal contacts, that there are a lot of things happening in other cities and in other countries. So there's a lot of stuff, but we had the impression that it would be nicer to actually meet in some form and have a conversation rather than just staying on Instagram or having like more superficial exchanges in this community around local wood or in this movement around urban wood. So this was kind of our key motivation to to get you on your computer today and exchange with us on the possibility of local wood and maybe trying to develop this network into something strong and in any case something that can help developing local wood more. I see Eric is already having his first drink. I don't know if there's apple juice, but okay. So like now we show you. So Hannah already mentioned that this event today is happening in the framework of a European project that we are involved in. Hey Marco. A European project that is so looking at something more general as well. So the solutions that are based on nature, so very general. But wood and sustainable forestry is part of the things that are being done in this European project called Connecting Nature. So we had the opportunity to have some resources that we use to organize, this event, but we can also continue to work a bit on structuring the network around local wood and sustainable forestry, thanks to this European project called Connecting Nature, which is really very helpful to to get things off the ground. But I'm sure there's a lot of other projects. There's a lot of other initiatives. That's why we're here today, to hear from you kind of how we can map what is going on in the UK and in the Netherlands and in France and Germany and in Belgium. We'll also have tomorrow. We also have Canada and the US. So this is really let's take stock of what is going on, the different initiatives, have kind of a mapping of initiatives, projects, but also opportunities and challenges. And then after these 2 days of the Local Wood Summit that we have now, we will continue to work proposing maybe how to structure all this and how to go forward. But these 2 days, like, I really see them as getting to know each other, see what's out there, have the kind of like a mapping of existing dynamics, and then in the future we'll build hopefully something more and more specific and more useful for everybody. Okay, so we go for the little video.
Yes,
yeah.
Martin. All right.
Thanks, Marta. So Marta is our DJ and technical expert. Well,
This is in the far corner.
he's sitting there. He has found the team that did this video. I mean, obviously, I think you'd all be familiar with the message of the first part, but it was also to show you some footage of our own operations. So the wood showroom that was in this video is our own sales location that we have here in Brussels, where we showcase the wood that we cut in the past, and it is now ready to be used in carpentry. So this, like, the images that you saw in this video, are our own operations. Okay, so do you want to say something more before you move to the
No, go ahead.
to the panel? So now, if you are all in the Miro board, I'll put the link again just in case for those who just joined us. Hello, Nike. So we're using kind of for the interactions in this format. Obviously, we need to be creative and have something a bit more powerful than just a chat. So we created this Miro board that we can use to interact. It's also kind of, like, allows you to navigate through the program and through the different things that will be going on this afternoon. So we are here at the top part of the Miro board. If you all managed to connect, where you see what's going on here today on Friday. And below there's also already some content for tomorrow. So today you will see, we'll first have a kind of, we structured the thing into 2 challenges. for this afternoon. And I know that some of you will be more interested in one of the two challenges. There will also be other people who will join us only for the second challenge. So it's really a la carte. We'll first have kind of the topic of the first challenge is a focus on urban wood. So really this notion of there are trees in the city, there's biomass produced in the city. What is the best approach for urban wood, how to manage it, how to make use of it in its different forms. So that's going to be the topic of the first challenge. And the second challenge is a bit more wider, and we're also leaving the strictly urban context, and we're going towards local wood, which includes also forests and in particular peri-urban forests. So we here in Brussels with the Sonian Wood Coop, we don't particularly work with street trees and kind of the urban tree in a park. We work with proper forestry operations because we have these big peri-urban forests around Brussels that allow us to, have access to much bigger quantities than what's existing in the city. It's also a very interesting field of collaborations now to see how these local forests are managed. There's a lot of interesting initiatives going on in this regard, and obviously for us it's very important to link to the entire chain of forestry. And this is kind of the focus of the second challenge. What's the best approach to manage these local forests? How to link them maybe closer to the city or to users of different kinds of advantages that these forests provide. So that's something we have like very interesting people to give us kind of an overview of what's going on there, and then we can discuss together how maybe to identify opportunities, challenges, actors that are very interesting working on this kind of challenge. Okay, so we have these two approaches. This is your computer?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to. We're in front of 3 screens, and I'm with.
You can point here, and I can follow.
Yeah. Okay. So let's jump to the first challenge then. The challenge on urban wood.
Yes, and for this we have 2 very interesting speakers, both on the Stadshout project, one in Belgium in Antwerp, and the other one represented by Tim for the one in the Netherlands in Amsterdam, which also has like a more interesting connection to the network that they're setting up. But I'll first give the digital floor to Sam. And so the idea is that we have like an interview, so do not hesitate to also raise your hand or put in the chat a question if you already, so we can already maybe briefly get into the conversation, but anyway, afterwards we still have like really time dedicated to discuss things. In the background, we will already taking notes on the Miro, so do not hesitate to join us for that. Otherwise, we will do that later during the discussion group. So Sam,
yeah.
The
screen if you want.
I don't know if you want to start with like a brief introduction showing images, or if we dive directly into the questions. All right. So maybe as an opening question, who are you and what do you do, Sam?
Hi everyone, I'm Sam Ponette. I'm a product developer and an architect as a study, and I am the co-founder of Stadshout in Antwerp, Belgium, where we, as a first experiment, have recuperated or reclaimed 100 sycamore trees or plane trees that were cut down on the main road in Antwerp, the Italië. And we are now converting those trees into usable objects and looking for more ways to completely use trees that are cut down in an urban environment.
All right. Well, you already kind of introduced your connection to local wood, but maybe you can tell us a bit more of how Stadshout came to be. How did you spot this opportunity? What are your ambitions behind it?
The Stadshout project in Antwerp was originally quite spontaneous in its founding. So at the time I was working for the University of Antwerp, and on my way to work, I noticed a big amount of trees being cut down. So having quite a large network from a previous engagement, I asked around to see what the intention was with this local resource. Turned out it was destined to go to a biomass, an oven. So as a product developer and a woodworker, I saw an opportunity to, let's say, with Stadshout Amsterdam as an example, to recreate that, let's say, that project in Antwerp, and to see if it would work. So because there were, at the time they were cutting down, I think 1,800 trees during those works, we had to find some partners, and we found two. One is Natuurpunt. So this is a big nature company in Belgium. And the other one is a private firm in Mechelen, Belgium, also in the Antwerp province. And we agreed to reclaim 100 trees at that time. Because that seemed like, let's say, a reasonable risk. Because we didn't know anything about the quality of the trees, etc. And how the interest was going to be from the customers, etc. Turned out to be a-okay. And I think it kind of showed here in Flanders, let's say, that it was possible. That it was possible to actually reclaim those trees and to make beautiful objects from it. And to show by a leading example that there is more to it than just getting rid of them. And ever since, we are looking for extra ways, let's say, not per se new, but to see which opportunities are there to, let's say, reclaim the entire tree from root to the tiniest leaf. And in doing so, we also realized that there are some stiff competitors on the market. When you look at a tree, you have the usable part, let's say, for a woodworker, which is the stem, the trunk. And usually the rest of the tree is destined for less glorious outcomes, mainly firewood. So in doing the project of Stadshout, we noticed that our biggest competitors really is firewood. So not per se other companies working with wood, because that would be from an environmental standpoint would be an okay solution. But the problematic solutions, that's where the real challenge is, we think. And that lies within the what we call wasteful the wasteful approach of dealing with the wood, which usually is the most, let's say, the easiest way, the fastest way, and also in that way also the most economical way. So for us, or what we see as one of the biggest challenges in working with local woods is to find a good economical product that can be a stiff competitor for firewood. You could say we can throw everything on the big compost mountain, but yeah, you can only get so far. And with doing so, the CO2, which is encapsulated in the wood, will be released. So we were looking for solutions that would pose a good alternative for firewood and keeps the CO2 out of the circuit as long as possible. So at the moment, we think we might have found a possible alternative, which is insulation. So we are in contact with a French company who are producing quite a big amount of insulation based on wood fiber. And they've told us that they can use the entire tree. Doesn't matter which quality it is, doesn't matter which species it is. It can be in a state of decay, it can be leaves, it can be branches, whatever. As long as it's chopped in little pieces. Mm-hmm. So for us, that's a very interesting alternative to look at, because of course, when you put it in insulation, it's going to be in Dutch, the name of the product is houtwol-isolatie. I'm not really sure what the English term is, but you can produce, let's say, a stiff insulation board. And in doing so, you could, let's say, be a competitor for firewood, but also be a competitor for, let's say, the cheap insulation boards like PIR and PUR boards, which are oil-based products. So in doing so, you could actually catch two birds with one stone. We are, let's say, at the very, very, very beginning of this process. So also looking for, let's say, collaborations on this route. So yeah, that's more or less where we are at the moment. So we are over half of the 100 trunks in, let's say, our trajectory of, I think it's the third year now. And we are lining up for an even bigger challenge, because at the time there were 1,800 trees cut down in Antwerp center, but there are now also plans to cut down 25 acres, I think, of forests next to Antwerp. And that's why we are also looking at the insulation thingy, because it's frankly way too much.
And so Stadshout is then now the actor that is managing, or like, what is your role then in this 25 acres of wood? That
we were contacted by Lantis, which is the constructor, or the company that manages whatever needs to be done there.
Maybe like there's that question popping in also, what was the reason for cutting down the trees? Maybe that's also
the reason is for a big, they want to solve the traffic jams around Antwerp. So it's called the Oosterweel project. Tom can tell you all about it, I think. No, so they are cutting down the same. It's actually the same reason as why they cut down the 1,800 plane trees 3 years before. So there are big construction sites in and around Antwerp now to try and solve the traffic jams around Antwerp every day. And apparently the best route to solve it is through a forest.
Which is a discussion on its own in Antwerp at the moment. Yeah? So, yeah, I think definitely also in conversation, like spice for conversation. I don't know if there's an English expression for this.
Yeah. And because they received a lot of comments about cutting down a forest, I think that's the main reason why they reached out to us, to try and see if they could find, let's say, a better solution than sending it all to the biomass central. And I think at the moment, they're still waiting for their permit to cut everything down. And the contractor who is standing by is gonna try to compost most material on site, which for us is also a big step forward, because before it was just clean everything and put it away. So now they're gonna try, at least that's what they say, gonna try to recycle most of it into the soil, which would be good for everything that comes after it. But of course, it's not really good for the whole situation in between.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and so your role in this process is then to advise them on ways to further use the wood, or like what is your agenda in this project?
At the moment, the role is, let's say, quite loose. So we advise them, let's say, the beginning of the summer, on possible ways too. But with the whole COVID situation, everything is postponed, so that costs money apparently. And so now it's a little bit of a waiting game. I have a sort of regular contact with them just to keep tabs and to see, okay, which way forward, which solutions are viable. So, and now it's just waiting, and because the situation is also a little bit more complicated, because there will be two contractors, because the tunnel which they are going to construct is going to go through two forests. So they have to cross the main river, the Schelde, and in doing so, they're gonna dive into the ground in the first forest and then come out in the other forest. Hence the 25 acres. And they have a contractor for every forest. And the second contractor is still unknown. So that's why we can't set up everything yet.
Sam, maybe can you tell us a bit more about like your operations? Like how do you work? Like how did you like physically work the trees that you already transformed? Like so we know you're coming from carpentry, like you're a carpenter yourself. Like how do you deal with the operations of milling and drying? And if you're now going maybe through this this context towards bigger volumes, like how is that going to work, like on the operational side? Like we invest in more machinery, we work with other partners, like how does this actually happen, like on the ground?
Well, for, let's say, what we call the experiment, the 100 trees, we looked for we very early on realized we are two persons, and two, we don't have enough resources, money, or space. So we need partners. Hence the two partners I mentioned earlier. And we made a deal that they would each purchase, let's say, half of the. I think in the end they purchased 45 trees each, and we purchased the remaining 10. And we made a deal that because they have a sawmill, they have the resources, the know-how, it's what they do. So we made a deal that they would do what they do. And then with the first partner, which is Natuurpunt, we made a deal that we would buy back the trees as we go. And the other partner was going to make tables with it. And then we made a deal with them it's like a commission fee. So either they sell a table or we do. And for us, so far, that was the most, let's say, interesting way to go forward with it, by using existing infrastructure.
All right. Do you have further questions? Erik, maybe you can jump in and ask your questions, or I can also read them out loud, but I think you also have some, or Erik is still having trouble connecting maybe. No, Erik.
Question, Anna, if you want.
Oh, go ahead. I don't know who is talking, but
Nicola.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I know that sometimes huge sawmill don't have the tools or the equipment or the infrastructure to cut off huge trees and to make plant out of those huge trees. Did you face any issue like that?
Not really, because the plane trees in Antwerp, the maximum diameter was 900 millimeters.
Okay.
So
it is back to normal.
Yeah, so that's really normal sawmill. When it was too big, they just cut off the biggest part, and then it could slide on there.
Okay, cool, thanks.
I did notice with bigger ones, there are specialized firms, but that's usually a custom sawmill. And I have to say, the half that let's say Nature Point, the nature organization cut into boards, they used like the standard wood miser type of sawmill, and the other one, which is Bosk in Mechelen, which is like a real, let's say, private company. They used a big sawmill company, and I don't know how to describe it best, but the sawmill fits into 1 or 2 hangars. So I think the maximum capacity of that saw was about 2 meters. So if we ever have a big tree, we probably go just send it there and be done with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if there are any other questions from the audience. I wonder if Erik has found his.
For Erik, I've read the volume of the French partner. I have no figures yet, because we are still waiting to contact them when we have the final go of the forest in Lantis. But it's an existing factory. I think it's a factory of Fermacell, which is an ecological brand of Fermacell. Yeah, I always mix up the names, but I can look it up later, and I'll type it into the chat.
Okay, and they are actually already producing the product that you're working on. Okay. Yeah. So the development questions that you had, like we want to step into this. I didn't quite get it. What the product development phase actually encompasses?
That's more an ambition type of let's say answer. There is no factory like this in Belgium.
Right. And you need to do it locally, since
so if you want to keep the footprint as low as possible, it might be interesting, but we still have to make the exercise, of course. It might be interesting interesting to either set up a new franchise for the factory or build one from scratch in Belgium.
Yes, as I, for example, know, just one comment on this, as I know from a project that was done here in Holland, they investigated a couple of business cases in which local wood would be taking part in the processing of let's say, pressed composite wood boards, for example, used in furniture like IKEA. And then we had a discussion with a big German firm who is producing those kind of products on big scale in Germany to sort of send the input of let's say local material to those factories, because they can only be efficient if they run on a really large scale. I can imagine for this kind of isolation material that could also be the case, but I see the footprint issue. But it's a matter of, I think, economies and calculating, I guess.
Yes, and at the moment it's also a matter of timing. So if they're going to cut it down, it's probably going to be the first half of next year. So we need an existing infrastructure. And the, let's say, nice thing about the French factory is that they work with I think it was a Norwegian factory, which is next to it, that processes all the, let's say, the big chunks of wood coming through, coming their way. So they process it into little parts, and then it goes to the factory to go through the wet process of producing the wood wool insulation.
Before we go to the next speaker, like maybe we can hear a bit more about your kind of your vision about how you see kind of city trees being used in the future in Antwerp, like beyond these specific projects. Like because I remember like when we met last time that you also have ideas about how to improve maybe the relationship also between the city services that deal with trees and people like you who are able to make use of them. And what's your vision about like how Antwerp can maybe deal with this better in the future?
Well, in an ideal situation, let's say, first thing that would happen is, let's say, a stricter regulation of chopping down trees. So first, further minimize the offer, let's say, of the material. So, and then, yeah, well, in the ideal situation, I would like to see that it's more and more difficult to get a permit to cut down a tree in general. Because at the moment in Antwerp, let's say, I usually give the example of a very old oak tree. Say you have let's say 500-year-old oak tree sitting in a field within the Antwerp area. It is perfectly legal to cut it down without a permit if you manage to get or construct a building next to it with a permit. So the regulations at the moment are, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm wrong, Tom van den Borne can correct me, of course. But last time I checked, the rules were that the tree has to have a maximum circumference of 1 meter, or has to stand in, let's say, less than 15 meters from permitted building. And in that regulation, the distance from a building is more important than the circumference. So that is why you can cut down a 500-year-old oak tree if it is too close to a building without a permit. So in the ideal situation, we would actually have like a permit regulation that stipulates that you have to have a very good reason to cut down a single tree, and that there are also consequences. Either to, of course, plant a new tree, but to encourage the owner of the cut down tree, as far that apart from the ownership debate, of course, to really make sure that he or she knows that there are alternatives to the simple and more traditional way of cutting it down into tiny chunks for firewood. So in an ideal situation, it would be, let's say, if you want to have a permit, you have to, of course, send in pictures, but it would be nice to identify the species of the wood, to address what is the quality, etc. Is it possibly interesting for that type of company or that type of company or that application, so that there is some kind of filtering system that directs the one that asks for the permit into the right direction for reuse.
Yeah, I think that's definitely already a very interesting point to start or to take further in the discussion. I think I also want to take with me is what you mentioned about like, or what we immediately also picked up, for example, from Nienke's reaction, is that like the draagvlak, the support surface for cutting trees is very low. And we also hear from administrations they're really struggling with this. So I also see an interesting connection there of like, how can we then at least make sure that when trees are being cut, that happens in a for good regulations, and then how they're being used at the best afterwards. So I'm gonna use this as like a starting point for the discussion later on maybe. And then I would like now to give the Tim some space.
Yeah, so we move to the presentation of Tim. Yeah, great. So thanks thanks a lot, Sam, for your intervention. We'll hopefully hear a bit more from you later. I just wanted to say hello also to Dirk, who is our lumberjack and very much in favor sometimes of cutting down trees. But it's also like we work with Dirk also because every time we cut down a tree, it's also kind of, sometimes he's even saying like we shouldn't cut this tree because it's a valuable tree and everything. I think we're always in this dilemma, like in our line of work, that you know, each individual tree, if you want to produce wood from a standing tree, I mean, you have to cut it down. And I think with Dirk, we already had a lot of conversations around this dilemma as well. Also say hi to the kid of Rosalind, who joined us for this session as well. So we move to Tim.
Hi guys, I already unmuted.
Tim, I think you wanted to start maybe with a presentation briefly, or?
Yeah, before I do that, I thought maybe it's good to introduce myself first. So I'm Tim. I do not work for a city wood Stadshout organization myself, but I collaborate with many of them a lot. One of them is Ted, who's here as well today in one of the regions in the Netherlands. And Hanne and Stefan asked Stadshout Amsterdam, the Amsterdam City Wood organization, to join us today. They were very, very, very busy, so they couldn't join us. And in the meanwhile, I was interested in the program myself, so I decided to tell something about the work that I do, and I will tell you in a second where I work. And then also I will tell you something about what they do. And this is, of course, most important for what we do here. So I work for the Nature and Environment Foundation in Netherlands. So Sam just said something about Nature Point. It does sound somewhat similar. There are 12 of these Nature and Environment Foundations in the Netherlands, one for each of the provinces of the Netherlands. And I work for the Utrecht one, so the one in the middle. And we collaborate a lot. And within this collaboration, we do some support work for the Dutch Stadshout City Wood network. So we try to make sure that that all the different organizations that work on recovering wood, saving wood from the oven, that they in some way can learn from each other and collaborate. And of course, we were just discussing footprint. So we don't want wood to go from north of Holland to the south of Holland because another organization can use it better if it's not necessary, because that will cause some transport that we don't want. So this is sometimes the collaboration is in this sense, but mostly it's the collaboration is about knowledge, because all of these organizations are doing somewhat similar work. All of them are slightly different, of course, and they have different organizational forms. But in a sense, they are all doing similar work, and we try to make sure that they can learn from each other and learn from the lessons that are already learned. So that's some of the work that I do. And it's good already to mention, I think tomorrow we're going to talk about building networks a little bit more. Something that is interesting to mention is that we are currently doing a survey between all of the city wood organizations in the Netherlands to just ask some basic information, like how much wood are you processing each year, how many people are working with you, how is your collaboration with the municipality, which is often quite important. Questions like that, and this will be added into a nice report, and I will of course share it with all of you once we finish, which will be in a few weeks. So I think that will be a nice data point that we can use. And then I would like to, I have a PowerPoint presentation. Just to prepare you, the PowerPoint presentation contains no text except for the first slide. It just contains some pictures, just to give you a little bit of an idea of the Stadshout organization in Amsterdam, which is where I am currently as well. As you see behind me, two beautiful pieces of wood from a birch tree that was cut down a few years ago in the south part of Amsterdam, actually in a very bleak, ugly part of Amsterdam, where they need the trees very much. This is like the business part of Amsterdam. That's where this tree is from. But there was a question actually in the previous session about why are trees cut down. I think, you see, Sam, is that also birch?
No, that's a plane tree from Antwerp.
Ah, cool. Yeah, I also have some other. I have some thing to put my glass on, but I actually don't know which kind of wood this is. So I'm a fanboy myself. But I would just like to give you guys some with some pictures, some examples, and then I think Hannah will go to some questions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let me share my screen. Share. And this is actually the first picture that I would like to show you. These are the heroes that we're actually talking about. So Christophe and Marijke, a very happy couple that are behind the initiative. And that are doing heroic work, I would say, which is not always easy, and which does not make them wealthy beyond measure, but it does make them, I think, very happy and proud, and that's I can understand why. This is, by the way, them opening the door to their new shop, which was recently opened this June, I guess, in a pretty busy shopping street in Amsterdam, which is, I think, very good. And this is a picture from the way the shop looks right now. I would say it's like a flagship store, because yes, you can go here and you can buy all these beautiful products, but the thing that Stadshout Amsterdam prefers to do mostly is sell just pieces of wood that you can process yourself. So encourage people to work with the wood. And it's not on this picture, but on the left side of the store, like on this side, there are a lot of pieces of wood like the pieces behind me. Well, you can just choose whichever color you like, whichever texture you like. And I'm going to make this into a coat rack, which will hang next to my door in the house that I just moved into. But that's a project for a little bit later. But just to give you an idea, and the cool thing is, on a good day, there's hundreds of people passing by this store, and most of them are, of course, immediately mesmerized by how beautiful this looks. They come in, and the employees in the store tell the story about what they do, where this wood is from, and well, why it's here, because it was cut down for some reason, because the wood was sick, or because there was no space for it. Well, and you can, of course, put it in the oven, the crematorium, or you can save it and make something beautiful out of it that will last for years, which is, of course, very good for the CO2 balance. Well, you know, I'm all of you, I'm very passionate about this. So I think it's very cool that a lot of regular shopping people are passing by this store, and many of them buy something small, but then at least spread the story as well. As I said, this is one thing that the organization does. The other thing is that they produce beautiful products for the city of Amsterdam. So the city of Amsterdam is a big they give a lot of assignments to Stadshout. And this is a beautiful house that was built in a fruit picking garden. There's a fruit picking garden in the west of Amsterdam, and you can go there with your children and you can go fruit picking. I don't think you can do that right now, but at least in the summer it's really nice to do that. And this is like the educational center of that park. And you can in this place you can learn something about the environment. And it was of course completely built out of city wood and I think another product combined. And well, stuff like this, made from Amsterdam wood, used in Amsterdam. I think it's clay. I see Eric adding to me. Yeah, and sawdust. So well, at least completely from native products. So that's very nice. And I think what is very special about the organization that we are talking about right now is they are a company. They get wood from the municipality, and they have to ask the municipality for it quite often to get the wood as well, because they have some sort of agreement that they get it, but it doesn't always happen automatically. And then they process it and they sell it. It sounds simple, but it's and it could be simple, but because they have such a strong mission, they do so much more. So they also attribute, and that's why I put this picture together, these pictures together for you. They also attribute a lot to different sustainability goals, you could say. So this is of course an insect hotel made out of city wood, and of course it's a safe haven for many different insect species. Here you see some children planting trees, and planting trees, of course, is also sustainable, but it's also an educational project, which young children learn that it's important to take care of your own environment, and trees have some specific ecosystem service for all of us. Here you see another one of these projects. Is one day there were a lot of trees cut down, so together with many people from the community, the wood from this project was used right away at the site. So it was well, there was a nice project, a nice activity. On the top right bottom, I put some picture of the team of Stadshout, and that's another strong suit, I think. So there's apart from the two people I showed in the beginning, Christophe and Marijke, there are like 5 or 6 people that are doing paid work, and then there's like 35 volunteers for the foundation. Stadshout is a foundation, so there's people just working there every day, and many of these people just do that as a hobby. Also, a lot of them are doing it as a sort of reintegration process. So for some reason they have stopped working somewhere else, and this is a way for them to return to the working world. And by doing this, they are helping a lot of people. I think working with your hands with wood is also very good for your mind. So they have guided a lot of people back into the labor market in this way as well. So I think that you could say, well, they're just processing wood. No, I think they're doing actually a lot more, and which is has a very specific role in the city. And I think, yeah, this is something in the last slide I would like to show. So this is was an activity that we organized, so my organization, in which we brought some of the Citywood people together. We went to one of the organizations. This is the one that is in Haarlem, a big city next to Amsterdam. And this is actually the brother of Marijke. So it's probably no coincidence, this in the family. And we just visited the site because you can do it in a boring meeting hall, but we prefer to do it on site, of course. We discussed some issues and some challenges, and apart from that, it was just a pleasant and nice day. Yeah, I think these were the slides that I wanted to show you guys, and I think now we can go to some questions.
Yeah, first and foremost, wow, it's very impressive to see the range of achievements and the range of levels that Stadshout Amsterdam is working, like what you mentioned is like reintegration of people in the working market, in the labor market, but also awareness building, like education elements, showcasing the alternative, and also what I think also is quite interesting is that also particularly private people just for their own project can easily come and find the wood.
Yeah.
Like, is there like what would be the, like, because it's a broad range of goals and objectives, what would you like say is the main one or the most driving one, or how would you position that?
You mean of all the projects that I mentioned?
Yeah, like what was it like? Is it really just about like the awareness building and making an alternative? Is it like trying to get every step in the process as sustainable as possible? What's the overarching vision?
Yeah, no. Yeah, so doing everything as sustainable as possible is very much in the DNA of the organization. And they would never sell wood, for example, to France. It's just too far. This wood is from Amsterdam and made for Amsterdam. That's the whole philosophy. And within this is, of course, the core business. And within this core business, they just try and involve as many people as possible to join in the mission and to educate them about the fact that wood has a lot of value. And like Sam said, and I completely agree, like wood is a much too valuable product to incinerate for energy. I'm not per se against incineration of biomass, but I think in general wood, especially the stem of a tree, is much too valuable for that, and much too nice of a product to burn away. I think that's a big waste. And especially and of course there's horror stories where the Dutch incineration companies import wood from America, and that's a very small proportion. We should also realize that. But even local wood is much too valuable to incinerate.
All right, you're already getting some applause for
Yes, thank you, Nicola.
And so, like, I mean, apart from all the achievements, what are then like the challenges that come with these? Where are the bottlenecks and the limits that you're facing?
Yeah, so of course I'm not facing this challenge myself, but I am trying to help Christophe and Marijke with that. There's a big challenge ahead. There's an agreement on paper with the municipality of Amsterdam that on paper, I think it says that 200 cubic meters of wood each year, if I'm saying this correctly, or it is a decently big number of trees are being donated to the city, from the city to Stadshout Amsterdam, because they are basically the only organization that really has this connection with the municipality. And it on the paper it says that they receive a maximum amount of this much per year. In practice, not so much is coming their way. And then they need to follow up if they know that trees are being cut down somewhere. They need to follow up on that themselves a lot, because the municipality doesn't have it good. They don't have it in their system enough yet. So that's a lot of work for them. And of course, receiving wood is pretty important for an organization like this. And you cannot bike around all day and look if they are see if they are cutting down trees somewhere. So. Of course, when there's a big project and a big project of cutting down trees, they know about it. But if it's just a few trees somewhere in a lane in Amsterdam, it's pretty hard to keep track of all that. So that is a challenge. And I think the challenge is also in the fact that the municipality of Amsterdam is a pretty big organization, a few thousand employees, and they have many of them are involved in this project, but it's pretty hard to put between the ears of all of these people that this is just a new way of working, and this is just how we're going to do it, because that is on paper how it should work, but in practice it doesn't work yet. And the challenge also is that next year this agreement is going to end, so it's pretty exciting if it's going to continue that way.
May I add something to your point, Tim? As me and through Osmos, me and Marco Koistra was here just an hour ago, sitting working next to me. We did a small project on helping Stadshout Amsterdam with basically pointing out, getting a picture of where they stand now, where they want to go, and what strategic decisions they could make. It's first of all, the numbers, as I recall them, were 10 times bigger than you said, Tim. So it was about 2,000 cubic meters a year. and that also ends through like a period of 3 years. And they are really keen on spreading up scaling up the volume, Stadshout. But it also brings in a really an important problem, or like a challenge in terms of logistics and in terms of management, as it requires like a decent skill operation, decent skill buildings, and also like a capital investment. And you know, on the one hand, it's problematic that the city does not deliver those 2,000 cubic meters a year. On the other hand, it's also, what if they would have delivered this? Can such an organization, which is basically run as a family business with a very big social and a feeling, like we said, like it feels like more like a family than like a business. Does this type of volume fit with the type of business that we're dealing with? And in scaling up, it means we need to rationalize, and we need to focus on distribution and marketing, like selling this wood actually, which is a completely different case, like a completely different type of business than products and designed products, where we have a lot of you build something like one of a kind of products with a lot of feeling involved. Then it needs to be volume, and this is a challenge for this type of organization to make the step to rationalizing and economizing the industry.
Thanks a lot for your addition. And I also saw, I don't know if there's time for that now, but Ted is in the chat explaining how his cooperative has a solution for it. Was there any time to go into that now?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, go ahead, Ted.
Because that is in another region, and he's doing this not as a foundation himself, but as a cooperative. Ted, would you like to elaborate on that? You are currently on mute. Ted, your microphone is off.
Better now?
Yeah, that's much better.
I say thank you that I can speak something out here. Well, we are located in the area near Schiphol, between Noordwijk, the coast, and Schiphol. There is Lisse. Perhaps everybody knows Keukenhof, and that's where we are located. And we have a cooperation with 12 companies, and most of them are just business as usual. Only we have started up a network to collect stamps from several construction companies. We started up with 2 sawmills and 3 steam dryers. That's how far we are now. We try to process around 400 or 500 stamps each year. We started in 2018, and we want to go up to 1,000 stamps within 2-3 years. The main problem what we are facing is actually investment money, because there is a timeline for processing of a stamp from the harvest up to the secondary processing range. That takes most of the time, about a year, 1.5 years, because you have to dry, you have to cut, you have to collect, you have to upgrade the qualities, etc., and you have to find your sales. That's a very important case as well. We don't have a sales force yet, and that's a very important part of it. But we try to close the loop. So from the harvest up to replanting, for every stem we receive, we like to replant 3 other trees. And therefore we have a partnership with Keukenhof. Right now we are busy because we have 500 stems to replace 1,500 trees. And right now we are in this project, and hopefully we can start with this planting project February, March of next year. So For the waste, what we have, I heard it already, we use it as a compost for forest ground or garden ground, but also for biochar. You know biochar? Biochar, pyrolyse. That's what we are starting up right now, because we have the bulb growers and they need koolstof, carbon into the ground as well. And that's the reason why we started up this project. And we have now some growers of bulbs who will use that. And also we are looking now to start up a greenery to plant, to start up our own samplings for trees. Yeah, okay. Just in a nutshell.
Yeah, Ted, can you it's interesting. Now we already saw three models or three different dynamics. So the one that Sam presented for Antwerp, we have Stadshout in Amsterdam, and your initiative. I didn't really understand to what extent you're also going into carpentry and finished products. Or do you sell wood to other carpenters? What's your model?
No, we are just a network, and all the processing actually they are be done with our partners. So there are carpentries, there are constructors, etc., etc.
Okay.
So our focus is just closing the loop of the tree.
Okay, so you're orchestrating the other interventions. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But you don't. But do you want in the future? Because you mentioned it's difficult to raise capital for investments. Do you want to go towards also investments of the cooperative itself in order to have more production capacity or more sales force, or is that something that you don't want to do?
Yes, actually, all the activities are part of our business model. The point is, every time when you grow, you need on a certain part of the business model, you need money. Start to buy.
Yes,
it's quite easy. Just to start with to buy the trees, then the next process with a company. There's also one of our members. He has bought the saw, he has bought the drying, etc. So he's milling, so he needs capital as well. And they're all new businesses.
Yeah,
it's completely new because it's not in the western part of the Netherlands. Some of them is in the east, and well, we know Belgium. I know Belgium quite a lot about that. That's different from what we have here. We have just some dunes and we have some sand, but we don't have forest. We just have urban trees, and that's also what we collect. And what we see about 18 to 22 species, and it's very difficult to make products, cereal products out of it when you don't collect. So you have to collect from several areas, from several villages, the trees. Say, for instance, ash or maple or whatever, put them together. A poplar. We have some customers who use the poplar for coffins. Yeah, sorry, in Corona time, but that's very nice for us. But anyway, that's it. Sorry, Eric.
No, fantastic. I just mentioned at the start of the meeting to Hannah and Stefan that there's a fantastic product designed in Holland somewhere. It's actually a bookshelf that is running through the lifetime. At the end of your life, you can reassemble it and make a coffin out of it.
Fantastic.
But one thing I'd like to mention about the sizing up, which you now pointed in mind through what you said, Ted, is that actually on the difference between, for example, Brussels with Sonian wood. Getting the wood from basically a real proper high quality forest, as opposed to working with city wood, urban wood. is that the quality, the average quality of the trees is very let's say there's a high variation in it. Some are really poor, and other ones are better. And another one is that the supply is not regular. It's you can't really plan the volume. And this as I understood from talking to many of the urban wood kind of businesses, is kind of a challenge in scaling up as well. So maybe that's an issue to take into account in the discussion.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, in this area where we live, a lot of poplar and ash is around here. So that is actually the main volume. Also beech and oak, because they are, yeah, how you call it, this is the local species. That they are in the suburbs of those villages. And of course, in the villages by themselves, there are a lot of cultivars who are very difficult to see okay, wait, what can you get out of it? Yeah. Yeah.
I think that also addresses a very important point when you ask me, like, what are the big challenges? One of them is actually getting the wood, and the other one is finance. The big banks are not familiar with this model yet. No. They should be, and they should become it. But it's hard for them to understand that wood has value, and that if you have a big shed with 200 stems, that has some value. But it's very hard for the banks to understand. Yeah, so far, and maybe that's something for the discussion, because as Erik said, and he was right, that if you want to grow, then you need at some point you need some finance, and that's very hard to find. I noticed that with all the much of the different organizations. I also see some of the organizations that don't really have the ambition to grow that much. Some of them are very happy with the way things are, processing a few stems each year, and that's okay. And right. I see some other that they want to grow very much, and that's yeah, they are not realizing their potential because banks are not on board yet.
No, but in my opinion, you need at least between the 800 and 12 stems a year to be profitable on the long run, and to realize a real business case on the long term. And that's actually our approach. And we see that if you have about 1,000 trees,
based on what, Ted? Based on what?
The volume of 1,000 trees. 1,000.
Based on what? How did you come to this number? Is it based on the cost of your operation? Is it based on
buying the wood, all the steps in the processings, also to make real product out of it, and yeah, not only working with volunteers, but working with people who can be paid, and also you can educate them. You have to develop systems, etc. here in the area. So actually, we want to share this within another waste hub of throw-out, so-called, because then you get a connection between several types of wood, and also you can upgrade your volumes who are valuable for the construction sites. Yeah, that, for instance, now we have 2 constructors, and they both want to have a lot of wood, and the point is, I have it from 3 or 4 species instead of 1 species. So, and that's a new way of thinking for the constructor as well, because what we see right now in the Netherlands and also in Belgium, a lot of wood is coming from Africa and from Malaysia, and that is here used in frameworks, etc., etc. And that we know that we have the woods here as well.
Mm-hmm. All right,
that's a very interesting point.
Conversation is already flowing, and I think we can go and flowing and go into the discussion groups. Tim, maybe I don't know if you still want to mention something about the network you're setting up over there. Maybe some questions more concretely about that.
Yeah, thanks for giving me that opportunity, because I already almost forgot, because the conversation was getting so interesting. I just want to mention that, and of course that's what we're also trying to do here in a European fashion. I don't think it's important to have a network. I think there are very few very good reasons for it. I think, as I said earlier, many of us are doing similar work and can learn from each other. The lessons that are important in Amsterdam might also be important in Antwerp or Brussels and other places. So and I think that's a very good reason to have a network. And I think from that point of view, you need to look at what works, what is practical. And that's also one of the things we are asking in our research. How would you like to get into contact with others, and why? And so far, I don't know yet, but I have some ideas about it. And I think something like this, or physical form, is just very nice for the atmosphere, for the building of new alliances, etc. And then aside from that, like parallel, you could have some sort of information flow. This could be some way use folders, WhatsApp group, I don't know. But another parallel thing where you can ask more small questions, and then something physical or digital like this, to address some specific topics. I think that's so far what I think would work best.
What would be the kind of the geographical scope of such a network?
Yeah, so what I'm researching is a Dutch scope, and for specific topics, I think that's the correct scope. And I think for different purposes and different topics, a bigger scope, and then European would make sense, or Western European, as it is currently a little bit, which is also fine. Could also be very interesting. Yeah, definitely. And I also know, for example, that was collaborating with the City Wood organization in Amersfoort, which is quite new. And they didn't have a saw yet, so they used the saw of that organization, which is, I think, very nice. But that's something you shouldn't want to do on European level, getting wood from countries to countries.
All right, thanks. And I think that's a line to go into the discussion. So I'm gonna maybe in the chat repost the link of the Miro again, if my chat wants to pop up.
Just a very practical question in the meantime. Would there be any time for like a small practical break for doing certain things?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we can. Should we have a short break now? Yeah. So we have a short, like, couple of minutes, like let's say 5 minutes, like a 5-minute break, and then we come back fresh for the discussion.
All right. All right. Hello, everyone. Did everyone get their a bit more than 5 minutes recuperation time from the screen? Let's show Stephen a bit more.
Yeah, thanks, Eric, for that break. That was very nice.
Good guardianship, stewardship.
I feel much lighter now.
All right. Well, with that fresh energy, let's go and dive in and absorb it all again into the local wood universe. So like in the link of the Miro is in the chat. It should be also in the email that you got. If anyone wants, I can repost it again. I'll share my screen, or you want to share yours? I'll share mine.
Yeah, sure.
Voila. So maybe we first give a bit of a brief introduction of how the structure has been built. So this part, this frame here, I'll drag you all with me. Is the one that we dedicated for today's discussion. And so as Stefan already mentioned in the introduction, the first session on the urban wood is going to be on this line. So we had a very interesting and inspiring already interviews and conversations around the projects of Stadshout Antwerpen, Amsterdam, and also the network which other Tim Bulters is like contributing. And so here we have our very famous matrix. So the overall structure is built around the steps that we see in the urban wood process. So starting from the trees to the biomass they generate, following to the next step of the first transformation, which then leads to a step of distribution. And in that case, also a second transformation towards finished products that go into retail and then towards the user. And so we have these columns which delineate these processes in a rather strict way, which is, as always, a simplification of the reality. And then on the horizontal lines, we have like a big square of a place for the process. So here we can actually post the challenges and opportunities that we see in the process running from these steps to the others, where below we made space for the network and actually mapping the actors, for which we made a divide according to the specific types of actors involved. Anyway, like this is just a framework for all of us to be able to structure the conversation, but do not like hesitate. We can always move things around or restructure during the conversation. We first would actually like you to give each of you individually the time to map things out based on your own experience from your own projects and your own expertise. And so for these, we kind of divided a series of post-its according to color. So you can, if you want, just click on one of them, drag them around. And if you double click, you can go and type in them. And so you can say here, we should, and you can type further. I hope this is clear for everyone, or like we can always give a bit more of a detailed instruction, but like raise your voice in case you want so. If not, I would like to invite you all actually to take the time now to explore like the challenges, the opportunities that you see at stake for your specific case, or more in general on the regional or even the European scale, and to map these out according to the matrix. Does anyone has any questions or need for clarifications? Or can we just, wait, you should unmute Ted.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Miro, so I just watch.
Well, if you want, and like you can also just write things down for yourself, and then during the conversation you can say them and we can put it in the board for you. So
Okay.
you can just make your post-its at home if you like to, and then we will digitalize them for you throughout the discussion.
Or you put them in the chat if you want.
Yeah, also an option.
So put them in like type them in the chat. Is that
Yeah. Okay, I will do.
Copy paste them. Then we copy paste them into the board.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Great.
So while we were talking and actually while we are like constructing this kind of overview, we already like took notes of you know, stuff that people were saying, like this opportunity to create a network at the scale of the Netherlands, for example, as an opportunity. But also this problem of financing that you mentioned. So there's already stuff in there. Maybe like if you want to create like use the initials of your name so that we can identify who wrote what. Like it's not super important, but maybe you know, just to say put your initials before the statement or your post-it, so we can keep track of that as well. So let's have a couple of minutes, you know, just have a go, and then maybe then afterwards we go back and try to make sense out of it. And maybe Martin can put on some music. Can we have some music while we're doing this?
Ooh.
Yeah.
With music, like with drums.
Yeah, put on something.
Yes.
When the music is over, we're coming back.
Hello. I'm gonna gently ask you to stop the enthusiasm. It's interesting to see our Miro fill up so quickly, so fastly with so many elements.
We are having a lot of fun.
Happy to see so. All right, I don't know where to start with all this content. Okay, and I think we can we can say that we're not going to be able to run over every little detail of all the contributions, but that's at least give it a good start. Like you can see, it's most the first parts of the process that are creating a lot of content. And maybe we just then go chronologically because they're all quite filled up. So let's start with the trees. I see quite some opportunities both as challenges. Maybe Nico, we can start with you. You wrote value all the economic services from trees and their ecosystem. Tourism, biodiversity. Do you want to say something about that that opportunity?
We also go to that afterwards now in the second challenge.
Yeah, just it's an introduction to the next presentation. So
we keep the suspense.
I should have kept that as the last one actually to make the transition.
Exactly.
Spoiler alert.
Okay, then maybe the post on the identity giving to existing trees, an approach to education. There's no abbreviation there. I don't know who posted this opportunity.
Tree tags with valuable information, age, diameter, history. Who wrote this?
That was me.
Okay, Rosalind, can you?
Yeah, I just had this thought where, you know, when you give something an identity, like a name or something that people can relate to, that it becomes a bit more personal. And in that sense, you can educate the public, or so the public and the people that actually interact with these trees, an opportunity to care about it. And so just simple information, even like how old is a tree? Because a lot of times you pass by lots of vegetation in the cities and you don't really know anything about it. So you don't really care about it. And once someone tells you about it, or you find information about it, suddenly it's important. And so that could be an interesting and simple way to start a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And it's also something that a lot of people were rather curious about, like the, ooh la la, we're feeding.
Yeah. Adrian, you have to.
Right. Before you hear me 3 times. Like it's also something we hear a lot of our customers asking if they can really track down the exact tree or the place where the wood is coming from. Maybe we can then go to the next one on the Miyawaki afforestation methods in cities. Pocket forests that like be on the size of 3 or 4 meters. I don't know who posted this one.
That was also me. That's something I actually recently came across. And it's, so just for anyone who doesn't know about it, it's about planting really, really dense pocket-size forests that allegedly can grow within 20 to 30 years instead of 200 to 300 years. You know, full you can find biodiversity within this forest even after like 3 to 7 years. You know, that's quite a short span of time for a forest. And this idea of bringing it into the urban areas means that you can introduce more species. And so that in that sense, you don't get like a whole square of, let's say, oak trees. And then when they have to cut something down to cut all the oak trees down, then nothing else lives on. So in this sense, this is more like guerrilla forest style that has been happening, I think, all around the world with the climate action as well. So something to think about.
Mm-hmm. All right, great. I think that's also something that we can pick up for our next challenge conversation. Like I have here the post of make it more difficult to cut down valuable trees in the cities. That is, I think, already linked to what
Sam said in the morning. Yeah.
And maybe I can add to that look also running towards this. I've also talked to like citizen movement organizations here in Brussels who are also really discussing like a lot of citizens get angry when trees are cut, especially in the city because they're more rare. And how can we actually find a way to measure their quality so that if they are cut, they can be replaced to all their different values, as well as like how can we also protect them more with this valorization system. Lex, I think you wrote the other challenge, like that trees are from like a rather low quality, the city trees. because it's not been production wood and that this has limits. I think this relates also to the conversation we had with Ted earlier. Do you want to add something to that?
No, not really. It's based upon experiences of Eric and I in the city of Amsterdam. And this is what the city says themselves about the quality of the trees. And of course, it's very challenging to say such general things because there are always very good trees and a lot of trees of lesser quality. But this is in general, trees have to do a lot. You have to be there for recreation. You have to be there for climate adaptation. You have to be, etc., etc. So wood production is not their only function.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then the next one, Nicola, I think that's also been you about like the advising role that we have, that we all have one way or another.
Yeah, and Nico, and also it's a yellow post-it. What does that mean?
Sorry guys, but it's not me. Someone is using my name.
Ah, so
Nienke.
Nienke. Okay, we have two NS.
Oh yeah, okay.
Is it a challenge, an opportunity, or something else?
We all have
fake news, fraud.
Sorry.
Do you want to say anything about like, do you want to add something about this poster that you made?
Yeah, but your mic is muted. If you.
All right.
Yeah. Well, what I think actually, yeah, often you have I mean, sometimes you're not in an advisory position, but you can take it, I think, sometimes and say like, hey, well, in my opinion, I think that building with wood saves a lot of carbon emissions instead of burning it. So I think if you want, for me, I would always take it as a goal to keep it instead of burning it into the air. So, but that's because my mission is actually reducing carbon emissions. So that's my bigger goal. But in order to go to that goal, I do other things to make this possible. So, but I don't know how you guys think about it. I mean, I don't see it as actually as a business. I just really see it as an ecological mission. but that's my personal mission. So that's maybe, you know, of course we are also here as humans and we need to live. So sometimes you do need to emit some carbon, of course. So we should also be realistic about it, I think.
But I put also like the carbon sequestration in construction as a kind of in the use column. Who not only have like furniture but also like a construction, and this is as an opportunity. Yeah.
We don't have much time left.
Yeah, we don't have much time, but I wanted to go to like a cluster of things because like in general, if you zoom out a bit, like you see that there's a lot of obviously like concentrated on the transformation and the first steps, and I think like, you know, just as it's not, I think, a blind spot, but it's maybe that we have less about retail and kind of the distribution. I think that was already mentioned also by Ted, that we don't have like typically a lot of sales force, and kind of there's this very inspiring shop in Amsterdam of Stadshout, and like maybe something that we could also develop more, like more sales channels and more like a better presence in that regard. But I wanted to go to this cluster. There's a thing here in the middle. I'll just draw a line around it here. If you go, like, there's a couple of post-its around these different networks, and I mean, you know, since we're here also to maybe think a bit more about how we're gonna structure this in the future. These maybe you can have a little sum up of this. So there's this proposition of Tim to create an urban wood network at the scale of the Netherlands that we already heard about. There's an initiative here from Connecting Nature, so this European project where we have a possibility to use this as a resource for networking. Something that we didn't talk about yet is the Urban Wood Network, which is like an existing network in the US, which is quite strong. So it's a federation of urban wood initiatives. And we are actually a member of this network. So we at the Sonian Wood Coop, we are a member of the Urban Wood Network because they also have a kind of a global reach. And there's also like other opportunities for clustering, for networking, for example, in the Green Deal. And Nicolas will also maybe say a few words afterwards. So I just wanted to flag, like, you know, there's different types of networks that are kind of about to be created or already created. So maybe you can kind of pay attention not to keep these things coherent, and maybe don't do too many networks that are doing similar things or parallel things, that sort of thing, right?
Are there any reactions to this?
I just want to say that I completely agree, and when I introduced the network, I tried to emphasize also the fact that you shouldn't build a network to build a network, but to serve a function. And there's a function for a network in the Netherlands that is partly about switching out wood and make sure that you use each other's equipment, which is, I think, very sustainable practice. And there's a function there that is about giving knowledge to each other. And there could be another function of doing this on a more European or Western European level. And I think every time you start something, you need to really think about what is the function, what should be a frequency, and also, of course, ask all the participants in the network what they think about that question. And then of course, we should collaborate between those networks. Shouldn't let them exist on isolated islands.
Yeah, but now I have the impression that, like, you know, since these things are kind of being created now, there's really an opportunity to say, okay, what's the division of work? What is the focus? What are the complementarities? That sort of thing, huh? Like, but are there other networks out there that we should be kind of aware of, like existing urban wood networks, or?
Well, there is, of course, a lot happening in the field of wood, and also towards the more larger scale applications of bio-based materials. For example, well, in the Netherlands, there are a couple of networks that really aim to let's say speed up the use of bio-based materials in building houses. So the aim is different there. It's not really on the local wood initiatives, which are in general still pretty much civilians driven and like on a small scale. But there are also large scale initiatives, and they are talking to construction companies and to governments on a higher level. And sort of in between, I think sort of connecting these two could be interesting, because the challenges are completely different.
Yeah. So at bigger scale, the industrial operations, that sort of thing, huh? That's what you're saying. Like to keep also like an open channel with like industrial players, like different forms of okay, yeah.
There's a question I would like to address in the chat about from Nienke about funding clusters. I don't know who put that posted, but I do think the idea is very interesting. That if you have a group of organizations that are doing roughly similar things, that it might be more interesting for a big bank, big financing company, to fund them together. I don't know if that was the idea of the person who put the post-it in, but I think it's a very interesting idea.
Yeah. The like I wrote this Green Deal funding for clusters, but actually I think we're going to come back to that with Nicolas afterwards. So maybe we keep the question for, and that's the transition that we needed.
Yes, exactly.
That's the
Because if we want to have a 5-minute break, this is the moment before we kick off the.
Could it be that a lot of post-its disappeared in the meantime?
Stefan has been talking about.
No, I just moved the whole thing about networks to the network. So I moved to the bottom section because it wasn't processes, and I just moved to the.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Basically, I think also the reason, of the right part of the scheme is not really filled up is that being programmed in school system, you start at the left and you end up at the right. So I think there's a lot of ideas on the right side, but for example,
now, like the idea is to wrap up this session and then go fresh into the second challenge on local forestry. Oops. And so like you have another 3 minutes if you want to have a break, go for it. If you want to have another 3 minutes filling.
The only thing now, the only question I could, sorry, just to intervene, what I could mention is this Miro boat going to be, let's say, online for some time for us to be able to add, let's say, ideas and notes to it, then to complete the thing? Yeah, because I feel like now it's been too limited in time for probably most of us.
A deadline for it, so it doesn't just wander around. But like, let's at least have it up for another week. That's feasible, and then so everyone can still afterwards take a bit of time to connect and to react to the post-its. All right.
Good.
Okay, so type along as long as you want, but in 2 minutes, like for another week, let's say. But let's say in 2 minutes we hear another piece of music from our DJ, and in 2 minutes we start the second challenge, the second panel on the best approach to manage a local forest.
All right.
So